The Premier made the announcement in Brandon late this afternoon, where party caucus members have gathered for meetings. This comes after his Indigenous Relations Minister resigned over comments the Premier made last month, which also sparked more backlash from within the party. CTV's Josh Crabb is standing by in Brandon with the details. So Josh, how big of a surprise is this?
There had been some speculation Pallister would be stepping away from the job at some point before the next election, but some observers say after recent controversies on reconciliation, he may have been feeling pressure to do so sooner. Pallister became emotional at times while delivering the news here in Brandon that now is the right time for the province and for him personally to step aside. At caucus meetings in Brandon, Premier Brian Pallister delivered some major news to Manitobans about his future.
A few moments ago, I informed my caucus colleagues that I will not be seeking re-election as a member of the Manitoba Legislative Assembly, and accordingly, a new leader of the Progressive Conservative Party in Manitoba will lead our party into the next election.
The province's 22nd premier will step aside after a tumultuous summer. He was widely criticized for remarks he made on Canadian history, which prompted some PC MLAs and cabinet ministers to speak out. Pallister apologized for what he called a misunderstanding after saying people who came to Canada before and after it became a country did not come to destroy but to build.
After almost 10 years as leader of our party and more than 5 years as our province's premier, I believe that now is the time for a new leader and a premier to take our province forward.
Pallister and the Progressive Conservatives won a majority in the 2016 provincial election and were re-elected in 2019. The exact timing of his departure is unclear, although a government spokesperson says Pallister remains the premier and that the process of selecting a new leader will be determined by the PC party.
And he did allude to the fact that obviously there will have to be a leadership convention. The party will need to pick a new leader. That is going to take some time.
Brandon University political science professor Kelly Saunders says she wasn't surprised by Pallister's decision because of previous comments he's made about his political future. But Saunders pointed out he had been planning to stay on as premier through the COVID-19 crisis.
We're not out of the pandemic yet, and the timing, I think, is a little coincidental, just coming on the heels of some of the very troubling comments that he made on issues related to reconciliation.
Saunders suggested Pallister may have been facing pressure to step aside now to salvage the party's fortunes. Pallister says Manitoba is well positioned to recover from the pandemic. He says that's why now is the right time for him personally and for his family to leave public life after nearly 30 years.
And it's not easy to make the decision to leave, but the question, I guess, has been answered. I don't think there's a better time than now for me to step aside.
Progressive Conservative Party President Tom Wiebe says he'll convene meetings in the coming days to determine the rules for a leadership election. Wiebe says in a statement, as per party constitution, it'll be done on a one-member, one-vote basis.
Josh, did Pallister say if he'll stay on as MLA until 2023?
No, he didn't elaborate on that, and he didn't take questions from reporters after making his statement. He did say now is the right time at the midpoint of the party's mandate to step down to give the party time to select a new leader.
CTV's Josh Crabb reporting for us live from Brandon. Thanks for this, Josh. And we are getting reaction to the Premier's announcement from the NDP and the Liberal Party. Liberal leader Dougal Lamont calls this a turning point for Manitoba.
It'll be a challenge for his party to be able to overcome what happened in the last years, because it seems to me he's stepping aside under pressure, and that even though they're putting a brave face on it, the fact is that he's very unpopular and is being required to step aside by his party, and yet they're still overwhelmingly silent in public about why that's happening. So we'll see how it all plays out.
And Brian Pallister will not be missed by the organization representing Northern First Nations. In a statement, MKO's acting Grand Chief, Shirley Ducharme, writes, "We are pleased to hear confirmation that Brian Pallister will not seek re-election for the position of Premier of Manitoba. We look forward to working with a leader who is fully committed to truth and reconciliation and working with First Nations in a good way."